The Razer Seiren V2 Pro is a USB dynamic microphone. It is the direct successor to this mic, the Razer Seiren Elite. Now this mic is top address. You're speaking to the top, not the side. A lot of reviewers have been getting this wrong. To do this review, I'll be comparing the Seiren V2 Pro to two other dynamic microphones, the Razer Seiren Elite and Samson Q2U, and two condenser mics, the Blue Yeti and HyperX QuadCast. In general, dynamic microphones are less sensitive than condenser mics, so they are better at rejecting background noise. However, condensers generally pick up more detail, especially at higher frequencies. Now, I know this pop filter is really obscuring my face, but I wanted to get the best sound quality from this mic possible for this review because this mic is not very good at rejecting plosives, as you'll see. And you'll definitely want to stick around for the software section of this review. Unlike a lot of the other reviewers, I bought this myself for $150, so I'm going to be real as AF when it comes to the software. So let's get into the sound tests. Now I have the Razer Seiren V2 Pro and I'm going to place it on my desk. The Razer Seiren V2 Pro is on my desk right now. It's about 14 inches away from my mouth. This is the Razer Seiren V2 Pro, default settings, 78% volume. That's the default when you put it in Windows settings. This is the Razer Seiren V2 Pro. Doing some keyboard typing with the Razer Seiren V2 Pro on my desk right now. It is about 14 inches away from my mouth. That's just as high as it'll go with the stand. And keyboard typing, the keyboard is behind the device, Razer Seiren V2 Pro. Turn the gain down to 61 for this. This is the Razer Seiren V2 Pro proximity test. Razer Seiren V2 Pro. This is what it sounds like, just about like 1 inch away from the mic, and I do have the windsock on. Razer Seiren V2 Pro keyboard typing test, and this is on a boom arm, and I have the keyboard a little bit below it, about 2 inches away from the mic, and this is at I think 66 or something like that volume level in Windows settings. Razer Seiren V2 Pro. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the handling noise of this device. Tap the boom arm too. Let's go for the desk. Those are some really quiet taps on the desk, but I saw the audio meter going up quite a bit. Let's go ahead and take a listen. All right, now I have the Razer Seiren Elite. This is an older microphone. Let me go ahead and put it on my desk to start these tests. Mic test with the Razer Seiren Elite, and this is again about 14 inches away from my mouth. This is a mic test, Razer Seiren Elite. Now this is a proximity effect test with the Razer Seiren Elite. I've actually moved the wind guard up a little bit just to see if I can prevent some plosives. This is the Razer Seiren Elite. Keyboard typing with the Razer Seiren Elite on my desk. The high pass filter is enabled on this device. This is the Razer Seiren Elite, and this is a keyboard typing test. Let's go ahead and take a listen to the handling noise of the Razer Seiren Elite. Now this is a background noise rejection test with the Razer Seiren Elite, and I'll go ahead and start off by being silent. Now keyboard typing. Keyboard typing with the Razer Seiren Elite, and this is to see how much background noise it picks up, how much rumbling, how much of the keys themselves. This is on a boom arm, the Razer Seiren Elite. Microphone test with the Samson Q2U, another dynamic microphone just like the Razer Seiren V2 Pro and Razer Seiren Elite. This can also be used as an XLR mic, so USB or XLR. This is the Samson Q2U. Let's go ahead and take a listen to the handling noise of the Q2U right now. Keyboard typing with the Samson Q2U. The stand is actually extremely bulky. I have this on my desk, so it's not going to be completely with the keyboard behind it. Keyboard's a little bit to the side of it, but this is the Samson Q2U keyboard typing test. Now I have the Samson Q2U on a boom arm, so this is what it sounds like when I got it right next to me. Let's go ahead and do some keyboard typing. Keyboard typing on the Samson Q2U USB dynamic microphone can also be used XLR, but right now I'm using it USB. This is the Samson Q2U. Now I'm speaking into the Blue Yeti, one of the most popular, maybe the most popular mic on Twitch before the Shure SM7B took over. This is the Blue Yeti. Speaking into the Blue Yeti on my desk right now, and let's go ahead and be silent so that you can hear the ambient noise. Proximity effect test with the Blue Yeti right up on this device about 2 inches away. This is a proximity effect test with the Blue Yeti. Keyboard typing with the Blue Yeti. I've got the device in front of the keyboard right now and it is on the mic stand. This is the Blue Yeti keyboard typing test. Keyboard typing with the Blue Yeti, and now it is on a boom arm. This is keyboard typing with the Blue Yeti. This is what it sounds like. All right, this is the HyperX QuadCast. It's on my desk right now. This is the HyperX QuadCast, maybe about 14 inches away. Keyboard typing with the HyperX QuadCast on my desk, about 12 to 14 inches away. I have it tilted up. This is the HyperX QuadCast. Really quick before I put the QuadCast on a boom arm, I will say this is one of the biggest pains to actually connect to a boom arm. It works, but it is annoying and there's like some loose parts that you can lose easily. Keyboard typing with the HyperX QuadCast, and I do have this angled very slightly just so that I don't plosive the mic too hard by blowing directly into it. It says that it has a built-in pop filter, but that has limited use. Anyway, this is keyboard typing with the HyperX QuadCast. The Razer Seiren V2 Pro sounds okay. It improves on some of the weaknesses of the Razer Seiren Elite, but it also has its own flaws, so overall, it's a disappointment for me. Now, when it comes to tone, highs, mids, and lows, I didn't really like the Razer Seiren V2 Pro. The Razer Seiren Elite has been my go-to microphone since I got it because it has a really rich, warm, bass-heavy tone. It's the closest thing I have in tone to the Shure SM7B. This thing cannot really compare to that in terms of detail and a cleaner signal, especially when you have enough gain to the SM7B. I'll talk about the issues with this mic soon, but the tone of it just beats out all my other mics by a lot. The Seiren V2 Pro is a lot brighter, a lot more emphasis on the highs and the upper mids, but really like the kind of piercing highs like the Blue Yeti and to a lesser extent the HyperX QuadCast. I like the QuadCast tone a little bit better than the Blue Yeti, but it sounds more like those. The problem is, unlike those, it also has like this gritty kind of low end. It's very hard for me to describe it exactly, but it's like my voice, like when I'm speaking, like the lower end of my voice, instead of being like smooth and clean, it's kind of like, I guess, crackly. That's the only really way I could describe it. It's just not smooth and not very clean. So I won't be doing any EQ for this video, but in my previous video when I used this, I actually did have to increase the bass quite a bit. Still can't get close to the Seiren Elite without getting muffled, but it was better than the default out the box sound. In terms of clarity, it's mediocre. I have the Blue Yeti, Samson Q2U, and HyperX QuadCast all over it, and I think this only beats out the Razer Seiren Elite in terms of overall clarity. You can hear the nuances in my voice a lot better in those mics that are above it. Now, I could not do a music test with the V2 Pro, but I was able to get music tests with every other mic that I've demonstrated in this video. I'll have links to them below if you're interested. Now, what I do like is that they cleaned up the mids and the highs in the Razer Seiren V2 Pro. This had really clean and really strong bass. It was good, but when it comes to the mids and the highs, it just was not really that clear for music. That kind of made it like useless in my opinion because it wouldn't pick up all these different frequencies. If you had like anything outside of just like male vocals, if you had instruments like a ukulele, if you had like a piano, if you had anything that wasn't like super rich and bass heavy and you want to get all the detail, this just wasn't going to cut it. Now, plosive rejection is not that great on this mic. So let me go ahead and take the pop filter off for the rest of this review. And I'll talk a bit about what they could have done to mitigate the plosives on this mic a bit later, but it's not very good at stopping those puffs of air from distorting the capsule of this mic. One thing I do like is that the mic is not very sibilant. It's not like the Blue Yeti where if you listen to that thing with like kind of bright headphones, it's like super duper piercing. Now, background noise rejection for continuous sounds like my PC fan was pretty good on this mic. It's like a lot of other dynamic mics are. It doesn't really pick those up too much. And it fixed the number one issue with the Razer Seiren Elite, which I think really ruined this microphone, which is this super loud noise floor. If you listen to any of the samples that I have of the Seiren Elite or watch any of my videos before I started adding the filter, it had this really super loud static sound in it. And the problem is the noise reduction filters that you have to use to get rid of it, because it's so loud, will start to kind of warp your voice. I tried a bunch of different ones. I've used Reaper plugin, I've used the built-in one in OBS, I've used Crisp, RTX voice, the Audacity noise reduction. Nothing can really clean it out without affecting your voice, just because the noise floor is so super loud in this mic. So they cleaned that up in the Razer Seiren V2 Pro, so credit where credit is due. Unfortunately, another issue with the Razer Seiren Elite is when you bumped the mic itself or the boom arm or your desk, and this happened a lot when I was doing headset reviews where the wire would like fall down, and I wouldn't even really hear it in my own just ears, but it would reverberate through the mic, like the whole arm. Even with the high pass filter on, you would still hear it pretty loud in this. I didn't even realize it was that bad until I started recording more videos with this, and I was like, wow, you can't bump anything or touch anything at all. Otherwise, you just have to know you have to like redo that part. Now, they did not fix this issue with the Razer Seiren V2 Pro, as I demonstrated in the keyboard typing test when I had it on my desk. Now, this isn't like what you're supposed to really be doing. I'd never really recommend using any sort of mic on your desk next to your keyboard anyway, but it sounded like an earthquake was happening under it, just the vibrations. Like, it wouldn't pick up the clacking as much, but just the boom of the keyboard typing, it was pretty bad. It was like the HyperX solo cast that I had. But like humming and stuff like that, it does a pretty good job of that. I couldn't really test the noise reduction filter on versus off, because as I'll demonstrate, the software had some issues, but by default it is on, so it should have been on anyway. Interestingly, of all the mics in this test, the Blue Yeti, which is generally the most sensitive in all of my other tests, and I've been testing that thing for like, a year and a half, that usually picks up the most background noise, but it was actually really clean and it didn't really pick up a whole lot at all. So that's interesting. So for sound quality summary, this has average, maybe below average clarity, and I'm not really a fan of the tone. But the signal is so much cleaner than the Razer Seiren Elite, and I do like the improvements on the mids and the highs as far as the detail and just not them being muffled. Now, I do not think it is worth it for the sound quality over the Samson Q2U, but let's go ahead and get into the software. Now, this was the single most frustrating software experience that I've ever had. Razer Synapse in its entirety, when it comes to webcams, headsets, mics, and I'm assuming like keyboards as well, that thing is like in pre-alpha and just not QA tested at all, but they're just launching it as if it's like ready for prime time with their products. Razer Synapse is so incredibly buggy, and I have a lot of experience with it. Let me just tell you, when the Razer Kio Pro first came out, man, that thing was so buggy. There was so many UI issues with it, but one thing is it would crash a lot, and when it would crash, your webcam would just not work, and you would have to restart your entire computer to get it working again. You couldn't unplug it, plug it back in, close Synapse or close OBS. You had to restart your entire computer to get it working again. But at least it would work after you restarted your computer. With the Razer Seiren V2 Pro, as soon as I opened Synapse, because I recorded a little bit of footage just before, so with nothing else open, just OBS, and I want to see, okay, what does Synapse have to offer before I put it on the boom arm? As soon as I opened Synapse, it hijacked the mic, and it just completely stopped working. Windows would detect it, OBS would detect it, Audacity would detect it, Razer Synapse would say it was there, I could click it, and I could see the little audio meter, but no sound would come from this device. I messed with this thing for hours, and I was getting so pissed off. The limiter light would actually even show, but the meter with audio, it wouldn't show any audio there. I tried all those different, this thing Synapse adds like 8 different sound sources that you can add. I tried every single one of them. Audacity, I had the mic, and it would just it would not record. Every time I selected the mic in any program, in Windows settings, OBS, or Audacity, anything, it would just lag a little bit, so I knew that there was some sort of a conflict. But whenever I would speak into the mic or anything, the audio meter would never go up. Audacity just would refuse to record. I'd press record and it would just not record. OBS would just be completely silent, and then you couldn't see any audio going up or down in Synapse. Restarted my computer, didn't work. It just stopped the microphone from working. So what I did is I uninstalled Synapse, and then, microphone worked. Oh, well, look at that. So I was like, okay, maybe there was some issue with the installation or something like that. Everything was working perfectly. So I got a fresh install of Synapse, updated everything. Boom, mic stopped working again. Exact same problem. And I was like, this is insane. So tried again, uninstalled Razer Synapse. Instantly, the instant Synapse was off my computer. Dun, 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 dun. You know that sound when you plug in a USB? Started working. So now Synapse is off my computer for good, which really sucks because as you can see back there, I have a bunch of Razer products. A lot of them are headsets. I have webcams that, all the boxes obviously won't fit in there. I have boxes here, boxes there, boxes everywhere. Webcams, headsets from Razer, and I just can't use Razer Synapse with them anymore because, well, if I put it on my computer, it'll take over this mic and then the mic will just not work at all in any of the other programs or in Razer Synapse. And I do not have high hopes for Razer to fix this because with the Razer QL Pro, the last time they tried to fix something, when they had their firmware update for the Razer QL Pro, if you're a QL Pro user, let me know if you've ever tried to update the firmware of your device, especially if you got one of the original QL Pros and it just bricked people's webcams. They had to send them back in. I have a video on that, a ton of comments of people that had the exact same issue. Razer never issued a statement on it. They just kind of swept it under the rug. And yeah, their software needs some massive help. So the software is definitely the Achilles heel of this device, but really I can't even use that term because there was already nothing really compelling about this device. It's just add on top of that, you have software that I've seen it work for some people, but for me, it just completely did not work. And I'm not a novice when it comes to using Razer software. I've been using their software quite a bit for a bunch of different products. Man, that thing is rough. All right, let me chill out for a second. Let's talk about the build quality. So the build quality is very nice. It is nice construction. It is made of metal, but it's still quite light. I like that. Just like the Razer Seiren Elite, it's metal. Even the grill here at the top feels like it's metal. It's just a really sturdy build overall. It comes with a yoke, which is the thing that just lets you re-angle it. So you can put that on the boom arm, which is what I did, or you can just detach the entire mic from the yoke. And then there is 5/8 inch threading on the bottom down here where you can screw that on. You'll need a 3/8 to 5/8 inch adapter depending on what your boom arm is like. But the yoke has 3/8 inch and 5/8 inch threading inside there. Now the wire is braided USB type C to type A, but as Razer does a lot, they have this weird shape so that if you lose the cable or the cable breaks or whatever, even though it's braided and it should be pretty sturdy, you can't just slap another one in there because it's like such an awkward, weird, specific shape that you could tell that they made it specifically. So it's really hard to put other wires in there, and it's pretty much impossible to use this wire with anything else. Now there is a mic mute switch right here, which turns red when it's muted. Let me just demonstrate real quick. And the high pass filter, which was a button on the Razer Seiren Elite down here, that is now moved to software side only on the Razer Seiren V2 Pro, which I obviously don't have access to. And the limiter is software side. You can actually turn off the limiter now, which you couldn't turn it off here. And it was a red flash on the Razer Seiren Elite. And it is just like an orange little bar in the Razer Synapse program. But again, I couldn't really test that. Now there is a volume slider which will change the volume of your headphones if you plug it into the amp, like at the bottom down here, the headphone jack 3.5. And then there is a gain slider which does not actually change the gain of like the power going to the mic. Instead, it's just your PC's system volume for the mic, which doesn't actually show up as an indicator. You have to like go in Windows settings, or I guess like Mac. You can go into the sound settings there to see what the actual volume is, but just moving that will actually change the volume there instead of gain to the actual mic, which I think is cool because I don't know why there's two different gain settings on most on most microphones anyway. It's like, why am I changing it in Windows settings and the mic itself? So I do like that overall. So yeah, the headphone jack does let you do low latency monitoring, which is pretty cool. I'm not doing that right now, but it's nice. The build is overall nice. I only really have one issue with it, which is the windsock. So I'm not sure if you've been able to hear so far, but the plosive rejection, when you say P's and B's and anything that just has a puff of air, the plosive rejection is not very good on this microphone at all. And what I use the windsock for, well, what it's technically for is you put it on your mic and it makes it so that wind, as it's blowing by, it doesn't distort the mic itself. But the thing is, no one, I don't think, is really going to be using this mic outside in the wind. What these are really used more for is like portable pop filters. Now, they don't really do that great of a job if you just slap it on and you like have it as a snug fit. Like if I was using the Razer Seiren Elite and I put this all the way on, that wouldn't really do anything. It would look cool, but it wouldn't really stop plosives at all. But if I kind of like moved it up, so here's the top of the mic and I just kind of had it here, I give a lot of room so that the air can kind of like dissipate before it like actually impacts the diaphragm of the microphone itself. So it kind of works as a pop filter like that. If you've seen the Shure SM7B, that's why it has that super long built-in pop filter, even though the actual like dynamic capsule is like all the way down here. It's because it prevents plosives really well. I don't think I've ever heard anybody plosive the Shure SM7B, and that's one of the reasons why. But I guess that is a bit of a nitpick. This is an overall really good build quality. I like it because it's metal and it's really light. Now, finally, my verdict. Do I recommend the Razer Seiren V2 Pro? No. If you're not a hardcore Razer fan, then I definitely recommend the Samson Q2U USB dynamic microphone. You can also use it XLR. I think it has a better tone than this microphone overall. Background noise rejection is excellent. It doesn't have as much handling noise. And of course, you don't have that crazy software issue where it'll just stop working. And even if you're a Razer fan, then I do not recommend this microphone. Actually, especially if you're a Razer fan, because if you have other devices like headsets or a keyboard or whatever it is, webcam, then you want to use this microphone and it doesn't work with Synapse for you, just like stops the functionality of the mic. You got to get rid of Synapse, then all your other Razer products are not going to be as useful without it. So, hey, it might work for you, but the fact that this doesn't really sound that great, especially for the price, and then it also has that software issue, I just think that this mic is not really worth getting. So again, my recommendation is the Samson Q2U. It is the only microphone that I like completely recommend for anyone just getting into streaming or anything, video conferencing. It doesn't really matter. That is like a super good beginner microphone and it really just ticks all the boxes. Great build quality. I highly suggest the Samson Q2U. If you are still interested in this device, then I have a link to it below. But like I said, I don't recommend it. See you in the next review.